Vantana seviti kahang nang de अकारे अंत न जापै पार वार अंत कारण किते भी लाए ताके अंत न पाए जाए एहो अंत न जाने कोई बहुत कहे बहुत होए बड़ा साहे पूछता ऊंचे ऊपर ऊंचा नाव बड़ा ऊंचा होवे कोई जिस ऊंचे को जाने सोए जय बड़ा आप जाने आप आप नानक न तेरी कर में दात है अंत न सिवती कहना अंत न करने देना अंत न वेटन सुनना अंत न जापे क्या मन मंगते अंत न जापे कित अकारे अंत न जापे पार वार अंत कारण किते बिल लाए ताके अंत न पाए जाए एहो अंत न जाने कोई बहुत कहिए बहुत होए बड़ा साहे पूछता ऊंचे ऊपर ऊंचा नाव बड़ा ऊंचा होवे कोई जिस ऊंचे को जाने सोए जय बड़ा आप जाने आप आप नानक न तेरी कर में दात है अंत न सिवती कहना अंत न करने देना अंत न वेटन सुनना अंत न जापे क्या मन मंगते अंत न जापे कित अकारे अंत न जापे पार वार अंत कारण किते बिल लाए ताके अंत न पाए जाए एहो अंत न जाने कोई बहुत कहिए बहुत होए बड़ा साहे पूछता ऊंचे ऊपर ऊंचा नाव बड़ा ऊंचा होवे कोई जिस ऊंचे को जाने सोए जय बड़ा आप जाने आप आप नानक न तेरी कर में दात है अंत न सिवती कहना अंत न करने देना अंत न वेटन सुनना अंत न जापे क्या मन मंगते अंत न जापे कित अकारे अंत न जापे पार वार अंत कारण किते बिल लाए ताके अंत न पाए जाए एहो अंत न जाने कोई बहुत कहिए बहुत होए बड़ा साहे पूछता ऊंचे ऊपर ऊंचा नाव बड़ा ऊंचा होवे कोई जिस ऊंचे को जाने सोए जय बड़ा आप जाने आप आप नानक न तेरी कर में दात है अंत न सिवती कहना अंत न करने देना अंत न वेटन सुनना अंत न जापे क्या मन मंगते अंत न जापे कित अकारे अंत न जापे पार वार अंत कारण किते बिल लाए ताके अंत न पाए जाए एहो अंत न जाने कोई बहुत कहिए बहुत होए बड़ा साहे पूछता ऊंचे ऊपर ऊंचा नाव बड़ा ऊंचा होवे कोई जिस ऊंचे को जाने सोए जय बड़ा आप जाने आप आप नानक न तेरी कर में दात है अंत न सिवती कहना अंत न करने देना अंत न वेटन सुनना अंत न जापे क्या मन मंगते अंत न जापे कित अकारे अंत न जापे पार वार अंत कारण किते बिल लाए ताके अंत न पाए जाए एहो अंत न जाने कोई बहुत कहिए बहुत सिवती कहनांग दे अंत न करने देनांग दे अंत न वेतन सुनांग दे अंत न जापे क्या मन मंग दे अंत न जापे किदा आकार अंत न जापे पार वार अंत कारण किते बिल लाए ताके अंत न पाए जाए हो अंत न जाने कोई बहुत कहे बहुत होए बड़ा साय है पूछता हो ऊंचे ऊपर ऊंचा नाव बड़ा ऊंचा होवे कोई जिस ऊंचे को जाने सोए जय बड़ा आप जाने आप आप नानक नदीरी कर में दात अंत न सिवती कहनांग दे अंत न करने देनांग दे अंत न वेतन सुनांग दे अंत न जापे क्या मन मंग दे अंत न जापे किदा आकार अंत न जापे पार वार अंत कारण किते बिल लाए ताके अंत न पाए जाए हो अंत न जाने कोई बहुत कहे बहुत होए बड़ा साय है पूछता हो ऊंचे ऊपर ऊंचा नाव बड़ा ऊंचा होवे कोई जिस ऊंचे को जाने सोए जय बड़ा आप जाने आप आप नानक नदीरी कर में दात अंत न सिवती कहनांग दे अंत न करने देनांग दे अंत न वेतन सुनांग दे अंत न जापे क्या मन मंग दे अंत न जापे किदा आकार अंत न जापे पार वार अंत कारण किते बिल लाए ताके अंत न पाए जाए हो अंत न जाने कोई बहुत कहे बहुत होए बड़ा साय है पूछता हो ऊंचे ऊपर ऊंचा नाव बड़ा ऊंचा होवे कोई जिस ऊंचे को जाने सोए जय बड़ा आप जाने आप आप नानक नदीरी कर में दात अंत न सिवती कहनांग दे अंत न करने देनांग दे अंत न वेतन सुनांग दे अंत न जापे क्या मन मंग दे अंत न जापे किदा आकार अंत न जापे पार वार अंत कारण किते बिल लाए ताके अंत न पाए जाए हो अंत न जाने कोई बहुत कहे बहुत होए बड़ा साय है पूछता हो ऊंचे ऊपर ऊंचा नाव बड़ा ऊंचा होवे कोई जिस ऊंचे को जाने सोए जय बड़ा आप जाने आप आप नानक नदीरी कर में दात अंत न सिवती कहनांग दे अंत न करने देनांग दे अंत न वेतन सुनांग दे अंत न जापे क्या मन मंग दे अंत न जापे किदा आकार अंत न जापे पार वार अंत कारण किते बिल लाए ताके अंत न पाए जाए हो अंत न जाने कोई बहुत कहे बहुत होए बड़ा साय है पूछता हो ऊंचे ऊपर ऊंचा नाव बड़ा ऊंचा होवे कोई जिस ऊंचे को जाने सोए जय बड़ा आप जाने आप आप नानक नदीरी कर में दात अंत न सिवती कहनांग दे अंत न करने देनांग दे अंत न वेतन सुनांग दे अंत न जापे क्या मन मंग दे अंत न जापे किदा आकार अंत न जा siviti kahanangde angtana karane denangde angtana vekan sunangde angtana jape kyaman mangde angtana jape kita akaide angtana jape paide vaide angtakaran kite vilalaye take angtana paide jaye eho angtana jana koi bahut kahiye bahut hoye bada sahe pucha thao uche upar ucha nao e bada ucha hove koi jis uche ko jane soye jai bada aap jane aap aap nanak nadiri karmi dat hai angtana siviti kahanangde angtana karane denangde angtana vekan sunangde angtana jape kyaman mangde angtana jape kita akaide angtana jape paide vaide angtakaran kite vilalaye take angtana paide jaye eho angtana jana koi bahut kahiye bahut hoye bada sahe pucha thao uche upar ucha nao e bada ucha hove koi jis uche ko jane soye jai bada aap jane aap aap nanak nadiri karmi dat hai angtana siviti kahanangde angtana karane denangde angtana vekan sunangde angtana jape kyaman mangde angtana jape kita akaide angtana jape paide vaide angtakaran kite vilalaye take angtana paide jaye eho angtana jana koi bahut kahiye bahut hoye bada sahe pucha thao uche upar ucha nao e bada ucha hove koi jis uche ko jane soye jai bada aap jane aap aap nanak nadiri karmi dat hai angtana siviti kahanangde angtana karane denangde angtana vekan sunangde angtana jape kyaman mangde angtana jape kita akaide angtana jape paide vaide angtakaran kite vilalaye take angtana paide jaye eho angtana jana koi bahut kahiye bahut hoye bada sahe pucha thao uche upar ucha nao e bada ucha hove koi jis uche ko jane soye jai bada aap jane aap aap nanak nadiri karmi dat hai angtana siviti kahanangde angtana karane denangde angtana vekan sunangde angtana jape kyaman mangde angtana jape kita akaide angtana jape paide vaide angtakaran kite vilalaye take angtana paide jaye eho angtana jana koi bahut kahiye bahut hoye bada sahe pucha thao uche upar ucha nao e bada ucha hove koi jis uche ko jane soye jai bada aap jane aap aap nanak nadiri karmi dat hai angtana siviti kahanangde angtana karane denangde angtana vekan sunangde angtana jape kyaman mangde angtana jape kita akaide angtana Tao, Uche Upara Ucha Now, Evada Ucha Ove Koi, Tis Uche Ko Jane Soi, Devada Up, Jane Papa, Nanak Nadiri Karami Date. Antana Siviti Kahana Ante, Antana Karane, then Ante, Antana Vekan Sunana Ante, Antana Japa Kyaman Mante, Antana Japa Kita Akaide, Antana Japa Pada Vaide, Anta Karankate Vilalahe, Take Antana Pai Jai, Eho Antana Jana Koi, Ohata Kehi, Ohata Ohe, Murda Sai, Ucha Tao, Uche Upara Ucha Now, Evada Ucha Ove Koi, Tis Uche Ko Jane Soi, Devada Up, Jane Papa, Nanak Nadiri Karami Date. Antana Siviti Kahana Ante, Antana Karane, then Ante, Antana Vekan Sunana Ante, Antana Japa Kyaman Mante, Antana Japa Kita Akaide, Antana Japa Pada Vaide, Anta Karankate Vilalahe, Take Antana Pai Jai, Eho Antana Jana Koi, Ohata Kehi, Ohata Ohe, Murda Sai, Ucha Tao, Uche Upara Ucha Now, Evada Ucha Ove Koi, Tis Uche Ko Jane Soi, Devada Up, Jane Papa, Nanak Nadiri Karami Date. Antana Siviti Kahana Ante, Antana Karane, then Ante, Antana Vekan Sunana Ante, Antana Japa Kyaman Mante, Antana Japa Kita Akaide, Antana Japa Pada Vaide, Anta Karankate Vilalahe, Take Antana Pai Jai, Eho Antana Jana Koi, Ohata Kehi, Ohata Ohe, Murda Sai, Ucha Tao, Uche Upara Ucha Now, Evada Ucha Ove Koi, Tis Uche Ko Jane Soi, Devada Up, Jane Papa, Nanak Nadiri Karami Date. Antana Siviti Kahana Ante, Antana Karane, then Ante, Antana Vekan Sunana Ante, Antana Japa Kyaman Mante, Antana Japa Kita Akaide, Antana Japa Pada Vaide, Anta Karankate Vilalahe, Take Antana Pai Jai, Eho Antana Jana Koi, Ohata Kehi, Ohata Ohe, Murda Sai, Ucha Tao, Uche sunang nang de ant na jape kya man mang de ant na jape kita akaire ant na jape paide vaire ant karang kite vilalaye take ant na pae jaye eho ant na jane koi bahut kahiye bahut hoye bada sahib ucha thao uche upar ucha now bada ucha hoga koi jis uche ko jane soe bada aap jane aap aap nanak na deri kar mera de antana seviti kahanang de antana karane denang de antana vetan sunang nang de antana jape kya man mang de antana jape kita akare antana jape paide vaire ant karang kite vilalaye take antana pae jaye eho antana jane koi bahut kahiye bahut hoye bada sahib ucha thao uche upar ucha now bada ucha hoga koi jis uche ko jane soe bada aap jane aap aap nanak na deri kar mera de antana seviti kahanang de antana karane denang de antana vetan sunang nang de antana jape kya man mang de antana jape kita akaire antana jape paide vaire ant karang kite vilalaye take antana pae jaye eho antana jane koi bahut kahiye bahut hoye bada sahib ucha thao uche upar ucha now bada ucha hoga koi jis uche ko jane soe bada aap jane aap aap nanak na deri kar mera de antana seviti kahanang de antana karane denang de antana vetan sunang विधि कहनांगते अंत न करने देनांगते अंत न वेकन सुनांगते अंत न जापे क्या
Jaya Sita Everybody sing. Jaya Sitaram. Sitaram, 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 Jaya Sitaram. Sitaram, 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 Jaya Sitaram. Let's everybody please sing together. Sitaram. 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 Jaya Sitaram. One more time. Sitaram. everybody, let's put our hands together. Clap, clap, clap. Sitaram, 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 Jai Sitaram.
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 Oh, Sitaram, 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 Jai Sitaram.
Sitaram, 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 Jai Sitaram.
Oh, Sitaram, 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 Jai Sitaram.
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 Oh, Sitaram, 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 Jai Sitaram.
Sitaram, 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 Jai Sitaram.
Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram.
Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram.
Oh, Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram.
Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram.
Sitaram, 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 Jai Sitaram. Bolo.
Sitaram, 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 Jai Sitaram.
Oh, Sitaram, 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 Jai Sitaram.
Sitaram, 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 Jai Sitaram.
Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram.
Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram.
Oh, Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram.
Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram.
Oh, Sitaram, 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 Jai Sitaram.
Sitaram, 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 Jai Sitaram.
Oh, Sitaram, 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 Jai Sitaram.
Sitaram, 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 Jai Sitaram.
Sitaram.
Sitaram, 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 Jai Sitaram.
Oh, Sitaram, 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 Jai Sitaram.
Sitaram, 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 Jai Sitaram.
Everybody together. Sitaram, 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 Jai Sitaram. 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 Jaya Sitaram. Let's hear you all sing, everybody, please. Your turn. Jaya Sitaram. Everybody please sing. From your heart, sing a little louder, everybody. Let's hear it. And together as one. Bolo. Sitaram. 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 Jaya Sitaram. Last one, all your heart. Sitaram. Please together. Sitaram, Sitaram, Jaya Sitaram.
Sing another one. Sing another one. Sing another one. Yeah, no, really. Yes, one more. One more, no?
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Everybody together, please. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. One more time. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. Last time, everybody, bolo. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Everybody please. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. बोलो श्री सद्गुरुदेव भगवान की जय। सियावर रामचंद्र की जय। श्री कृष्ण गोविंद गोपाल भगवान की जय।
Thank you so much, Govindas, Jacqueline. What a gift. What a beautiful, beautiful gift to just open our hearts, to open us so fully and so completely. There's a line in the chanting that each night in Rishikesh at PARMARTH NIKETAN that we chant in the Ganga Arati. It's a beautiful line that says, Sabse unchi prem sagai. And it means the highest form of love is love for God. So love is the answer, we know that. Love is the way, we know that. Love is all you need, we know that. And that highest form of love is love for God. And in the scriptures where God is speaking to us, what we are told is, I'm in everyone. And so that highest form of love, which is love for God, becomes love for all. For all. Everyone, everything that's permeated by, infused with, but not infused in just like a little way, like your huge bathtub is infused with a little bit of lavender. Not infused in that way, but infused as in it is all that is there. Permeated by, full of, pervaded by the divine. So this kirtan, this devotional singing, is one of the purest and most powerful ways to touch that place of love in our hearts. I mean, we know how good love feels. We know how good, miss so many opportunities to feel love, to be in love. Because, oh, I don't know you, or I don't know this person, or this or that. But when we're able to love God and then recognize that all are embodiments of, manifestations of the divine, by any name, any form, it doesn't matter. However you connect with that divine, well, then we become able to love all. As they were singing the last song of Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, and especially at the end, as Govind did what is so traditional in singing kirtan, is to then call out, the different names of the divine, and we say, Jai, glory to. And as we say glory to Ram, last week in India, many of you may know, some of you may not, a very, very special and beautiful occasion happened, which was the temple at the site of where Ram was born, in Ayodhya. After being destroyed 500 years ago, the temple was re-erected. And it was a huge, huge, huge global celebration of Ram coming home. The Indian holiday of Diwali is actually when Ram came back to Ayodhya after the war. But here you've got Ram coming back 500 years later. And I mention it here because in the story of Ram, in the story of the Ramayana, most of it is the pre-war time. Then it's Ram and Sita and Lakshman off for 14 years in the jungle, Hanumanji, then the whole war with Ravan, right? This is the plot of the Ramayana. And then Ram comes back, and that's much more kind of toward the end. But there's a very, very critical piece, which is after Ram came back to Ayodhya, after the war in Lanka, after defeating the demon king Ravan, after Hanuman becoming the hero who saved the day, after all of that, when Ram comes back, it began an era of what was known as Ram Raja, which is essentially the era of Ram. But it's not just the literal as in Ram was king during this time. Ram Raja is a time of equality. No one was sick. No one went hungry. No one fought. It was a utopian time of love, of oneness, of equality, of justice, of goodness, of sustainability. The earth was happy. The people were happy. Everyone was in peace and health and abundance and joy and love. And as this temple was just erected, and as Ram has now been brought back to Ayodhya into the temple, it's a really beautiful symbolic opportunity for all of us to say, well, okay, so he's come back, the temple has been built, and now becomes the time, if we look historically and in the spiritual tradition of what happened after Ram came back to Ayodhya, is this era of goodness. And so it's a beautiful call and a beautiful opportunity for all of us to just, in our own minds, in our own hearts, in our own lives, in whatever way that message touches you, to just allow yourself to be a citizen of the kingdom of Ram, a citizen in the era of Ram, that era of goodness and peace and love and justice and equality. So it's a very powerful and auspicious and beautiful time. And as Govind and Jacqueline just sang it so beautifully, I thought, well, let me share this history and spiritual tradition and culture together with you all. And we're here this evening with this beautiful theme of the flow of grace, of opening ourselves to it, aligning ourselves with it. And nothing opens us and aligns us more than love, which is why I'm always so touched and just beyond delighted when they open with singing. It's so interesting because so many people ask questions all the time about, how do I experience grace? How do I find grace? Where is grace? Like, how do I become worthy of grace? There is nothing but grace. Grace isn't something that we need to get or attain or obtain or find. Grace is what is. It is the nature of us. It is the nature of the universe. It's like if I say to you, is this wool or is this a shawl? Right? Could you distinguish the two? Well, you could remove the shawl from the wool, but you couldn't remove the wool from the shawl, meaning things that are wool can make sweaters and socks and shawls and caps and so many things. Wool is the material, the content, you can say. Shawl is the form. And there's many forms. I gave you a few, socks or hats or sweaters or shawl. But you cannot remove the content from the form. You can change form. Somebody who was a good weaver or sewer could turn my shawl into socks or a hat. But you cannot remove content from form, so you cannot remove the wool from this shawl. Like you can't remove the clay from a pot. You could take the content of clay and you could make a cup instead. But if you're looking at a clay pot, There is no pot that isn't clay. There is no shawl without the wool. In the same way, grace, divinity, is the content. We are all the forms. So that content can take an innumerable number of forms, but each form is inseparable from the content, like my shawl is inseparable from wool, like a clay pot is inseparable from the clay. And so grace is not something that exists outside. It's not like I would say, well, God, I really need some wool to add to my shawl. Is that funny? She's my favorite audience. In the same way, there's no grace that we are going to find and grab and attain and add to. Grace is our content. Divinity is the content. There was a man once who was a deep spiritual seeker and looking for God, and very frustrated, felt like whatever he did, he couldn't find God. And one day he collapses in agony and despair and frustration underneath a tree next to a river. And he's just frustrated and miserable. And out of the river, suddenly this fish jumps up. And the fish starts to cry, water, 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 I need water, I'm going to die without water. The man looks at the fish and says, you stupid fish, you live in the water. There's nothing but water. You have now jumped out of the water. You're flapping around in the air, yelling for water. Go back in the water. And the fish, and because it's a story, fish can talk. So the fish then says, and you stupid man. Because in the same way that I am surrounded by water and there is nothing but water, you are not only surrounded by God. The water is only around me, it's not in me. But you are not only surrounded by God, but God is in you, is you. And yet you are flapping around, yelling for God. Just go back inside. Just go back inside. There's a legend told in numerous ways in mythology, but also in the scriptures, of the divinity of humans being hidden within our own hearts because it is the last place we will look. That when creation was happening and it was trying to be figured out where that truth, that capital T truth of who we are, the reason we are, where was that going to be kept? Because of course, the point, the karmic journey is to remember. So where was that truth going to be hidden so that we could search for it? And it was decided that if it was hidden on the top of the tallest mountain, eventually we'd find it. If it was hidden underneath the oceans, we would find it. That the mountain was too easy, the ocean was too easy. But it was ultimately decided to hide it in our own hearts. Because as humans, we weren't going to turn around and look within. And that place would be the place to which we turned only last. And it's an instructive and an interesting story. But of course, that divinity is not just somewhere in us, hidden in a box in some part of our heart. It actually is the very truth of who we are. And so when you think about grace, think about it as self-recognition, self-awareness, of coming back to yourself, to the truth of yourself. No one can breathe you. You breathe. No one can digest your food for you. You need to digest your food. I remember when I was young and I would say to my mom, I had to go to the bathroom, and I would say, I'm going to pee. And jokingly, my mom would say, oh, great, pee for me too. Mom was always in a rush. Mom always had way too much to do. So, she was half kidding, as in, like, I've got too much to do, so as long as you're going to the bathroom, like, if you could take care of that for me too, that would be great. And it was always just a funny little joke when I was a little kid. But point being, no one can do any of those things for you, but you do them for you automatically. You breathe, you digest. We heal, we repair, we sleep, we grow. It is who we are in the body. When that identification, that awareness is of the body, well, look, it's all in us. It's only when something goes awry, when we are out of balance, when we are in a state of dis-ease, that we need outside intervention. And in the same way, when we shift that identity and shift that awareness from body to the truth of who we are, well, again, it's not something to be gotten from outside. It's that grace is in me. That presence is in me. That divinity is in me. It is me. It is why we chant so hum or aham brahm asmi. I am that. I am one with the divine. Tattvam asi, thou art that. All of these very short mool mantras, foundational mantras, are just there to remind us, oh yeah. And that's why it's so sad when we talk about, or you'll hear people say things like, I have fallen from grace. Where to go? Where are you going to go? Where do you fall? You can't fall from grace. All it means is I have stopped seeing. I have stopped seeing. I have closed my eyes. The sun is still there, but my eyes are closed. Okay. It doesn't change the nature of the truth that the sun is there. It just means, for whatever reason, I have decided I don't want to see it. Okay. So we close our eyes. But you can't fall from grace. There is nowhere to go. And if you feel like you have fallen from grace, recognize that all it means is, for whatever reason, you've chosen to not see, which means that you have the power, the opportunity to see. But the reason we don't, and the reason why in that legendary story the truth is hidden within us, why don't we look within? Because of the mind. Because of the games of the mind. There are, it's said, 3 main diseases of the mind. The first disease of the mind is mal. Now, mal means junk, quite literally, junk. It's used in Hindi also. These are Sanskrit words, but it's used in Hindi as well. And you'll hear people say things like get all this mal out of here. Like it's just junk, rubbish, nonsense, clutter. The stuff that prevents you from having a clear space. And the mal of the mind are what we are given as the eight forms of this junk of the mind, which are, I'll give them quickly to you in the Sanskrit and then I'll give them to you in English. They're going to be very similar to what so many different paths teach us. They are Kam, Krodh, Lobh, Moha, Mad, Matsarya, Damra, and Ahankar. It's lust, anger, greed, delusion, or attachment. Moha is sometimes defined as delusion, sometimes as attachment. Arrogance, jealousy, hypocrisy, and ego. This is the junk of the mind. But it's important to realize this is not evil, this is not bad. This is, remember, we're talking about clutter. So you want to be free of it. But it's not the stuff, it doesn't make you a bad person. Oh, you get angry? Okay. You feel greedy, you feel lustful, you're arrogant, you're jealous, you've got an ego. Okay. Yes, you want to be free of it in the same way that you need to declutter your room or your house or your working space. But it's not the stuff to feel awful about. So many people so frequently feel like, oh my God, I'm a horrible person because I am so mired in anger or lust or greed or this or my ego, and I'm a horrible person. Or I'm never going to become spiritual. It's just clutter. It's just clutter. You've got to work with it. And it said that the ways to work with this junk, this clutter, are satsang, what we are doing now, this association of truth, coming together in truth, satsang, seva, nishkam karma, which is selfless action, selfless service, not just, a one Saturday a month volunteer work, but really how to use your actions for others. Because what satsang does, what seva does, is it purifies our mind. Satsang also refers to the association of holy beings, association of truth. So it's a way of purifying. If you have a needle and you want to purify the needle, you just light a match and you stick it in the fire. Fire purifies the needle. In the same way, satsang, seva, karma yoga, they purify our minds. They remove the clutter. The second of these diseases of the mind is just these constant fluctuations, the waves of the mind, the projections of the mind. This way that as our mind, we throw it out. You made me angry. Right? It's your fault I'm angry. You are this. I need that. All of this false projection, somebody looks at you in a certain way, you identify based on it. Someone treats you a certain way, you identify based on it. This idea that somehow we are our environments. This is all just the constant waving of the mind. We talk about it also as the monkey mind. Again, nothing to feel badly about. And this is my point here. Because so many people come to me and they say, I'll never be able to meditate. I'll never be able to meditate. Like, I just can't calm my mind. Maybe in my next birth, I'll be able to be spiritual. But we feel like there's something wrong with us. Or you're sitting and you're meditating in a group and your mind is all over the place. You know, you're sitting like this, but you're making shopping lists, or you're thinking about some conversation you had or that you're going to have. And what does the mind start doing? It starts saying, my God, look at everybody else. Look at how nicely everybody else is sitting. They're all meditating so nicely. Everybody else is a better meditator than I am. There's something wrong with me. And this reminds us, it is the nature of the mind. It's filled with junk. It goes up and down in waves. It projects itself. And the way that we work with that is meditation, pranayama, yoga, asana, but mindful asana. Not you're listening to lots of loud music asana, but we're calming the mind, drawing the attention inward, pratyahara, we're withdrawing the senses, drawing them inward. So we work with the mind. We've got all of these tools to work with the mind. It's like, oh, you have kidney disease? Well, okay, here's what you do. Oh, you have high blood pressure? Here's what you do. Diseases of the body, here are the treatments. Diseases of the mind, here are the treatments. Not a bad person. There's nothing wrong with you. Some people have high blood pressure. Some people have low blood pressure. Some people have high blood sugar. Here's what you do. You eat this. You don't eat that. You exercise in this way. And here we've got diseases of the mind. Some of us have more of one than the other, but we've all got all three. And the third one is what's called avaran, and it means the veil. The veil. That which covers us from truth. You've heard of the veil of Maya, right? One way of thinking about this is if you are at a beautiful lake and you want to see your reflection in the lake. There are three possible problems, frequently all three problems. Number one, there's gunk on the lake, right? There's just that film on the lake that starts to grow on water. Or maybe there's actually just like leaves or twigs or seaweed or whatever it may be. Then maybe there's waves. Maybe there's too much movement in the water. And then third, imagine that someone took this shawl and draped it on top of the lake. So three different problems. Too much stuff, too much movement, and a veil. And that veil of Maya is that which tells us you are this body. You are this body. And that's the root cause of suffering. It's the root cause of suffering. You are this body. Therefore, you are its history, all of that which has happened to it, all of that which it does. You are what it looks like. You are the fact that it's not tall enough or thin enough or beautiful enough or young enough or successful enough or funny enough or smart enough. And so we suffer. And then Maya is that which is constantly telling you, not only are you this body, but therefore the things of the world, see all those other bodies? They are going to be the source of what you need, what you want. Maya is the source when we speak about rag and dvesh, the desires and the aversions, that which I want and don't want. Again, it's all under Maya, because Maya is that which convinces us you need things to be a certain way in order to be happy. If you've ever had this thought, I would be happy if, or I will be happy when, and that blank is filled in by anything other than, I actually realize myself. If that blank is filled in with anything else that is dependent upon something changing in the outer world, another person changing, something about your body or your situation in life or your relationships or anything changing, that's all Maya. And it's just a veil. Again, nothing wrong with you. There's just a veil. It just needs to be removed. And that veil of Maya gets removed through wisdom, through truth. Like light dispels darkness, truth dispels the ignorance. And again, that brings us back to the importance of satsang, being in that presence of truth to dispel that ignorance. So feeling that you're not connected to grace is just because here's the diseases of the mind, and as long as you're here in a human body, you've got this package deal of the human experience, which is this workings of the mind, but then we have all of these beautiful tools. And they're all free. That's what's so beautiful about them. They're free. Everyone can do them. There's no prerequisites. You know, even advanced yoga classes have prerequisites, but these have no prerequisites. They don't cost anything. You don't have to be different in some way, be more in some way. It's all available to us. And so instead of thinking I need grace, all you need is to just work with your mind the way you work with your body. You know, if suddenly you developed knee pain, or you had had some physical issue that you'd had for your whole life that was hampering you in some way, you'd work with it. You'd have love and compassion for yourself, but you'd work with it. You wouldn't just say, oh yeah, I have a bad knee and that's just how it's going to be for the rest of my life. I guess I'll never walk again or run again or do trikonasana again or go hiking again. You would do whatever needed to be done to treat that knee. And in the same way, we just need to do whatever we need to do to treat the mind. There's a beautiful teaching that says, Man eva manushyanam karanam bandha mokshayo. And it means the mind is the key to your liberation and the key to your bondage. Whichever way you want to go, it is up to you. No one else holds the key. Most of us think, oh my God, if just my boss would be different, or my, husband or my wife or my mother or my father would be different, or this would be different, or that would be different. Then, I'm not saying people aren't annoying. Sure, I mean, not all of them, obviously, but many of them. But that annoyingness of the human condition that we all have, that's not there to steal your truth. Someone is difficult, okay. Someone else is tall, okay. Someone is black, someone is white, someone is easy, someone is difficult, someone is kind, someone is unkind. But no matter what anyone is, it should not have an impact on your ability to access your truth. And the last piece that I think is really important to mention here, it's not in any of these lists that we're given of the mind, but it is the core teaching of the Bhagavad Gita, and it's something that is so powerfully prominent today that it is perhaps in many ways one of the biggest obstacles to feeling grace and living grace in our life, which is fear. When I'm afraid, I'm contracted, right? Just think for a moment in your body. Close your eyes for a moment and just feel afraid in your body. What do? Right? Do you contract? Do you kind of come like you're going to just curl up into a little ball? When we feel afraid, we contract. We contract physically, and we contract in our minds and our hearts. And that's very advantageous if your physical body is in danger, if you're under attack. Perhaps curling up into a little ball and protecting your head and your neck and becoming as small and as still as possible might protect you from the wild animal or the warring tribe or whatever it may be. Right? We were taught in elementary school in earthquake preparedness, right? Tuck and duck, right? Under the tables and protect your head and neck, get as small as you can, crouch under. I don't know if that's what they're still teaching in school, but when I was in elementary school, that was what they taught. And that works in some cases to protect the body. But contraction in our minds and our hearts and our lives actually doesn't protect us, and it harms us. And that fear in our lives these days is what blocks us from the presence of grace. But again, it's not your fault. We are being tragically bred these days to be afraid. Really, we are being bred to be afraid. We're being bred to be afraid of the other, whether it's a different political party, whether it's a different race or religion or color or sexual orientation or across a particular line that we call a border or a boundary of a country, whatever it may be. We are being bred to be afraid of the other. And I really mean that when I use the word being bred. I was reading somewhere that in the last 10 years, there's 22 new species of dogs. 10 years, 22 new species. Like, these breeders are just having a field day. And that's great. I mean, why not? As long as it's done in a non-harmful, loving sort of way, because people want a dog that's kind of half this and half that and a little bit of this. All right. Again, I don't know anything about dog breeding, so I'm going to assume it is done with love and non-violence and no harm. No problem. Have as many different breeds of dogs as you want. But the planning, the precision, the calculation that is used to breed these dogs as a commercial endeavor is actually in many ways no less than the planning that is being used to breed us into beings who are afraid of each other, into beings who live in thicker and thicker walls, thicker and thicker lines between us. The circles of us versus them are getting smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. those who counted as us, fewer and fewer and fewer and fewer. And the walls between us, the boundaries between us, thicker and thicker. Now, what does that do to us? It makes us contract. We are becoming more and more contracted and closed in our minds, in our hearts, in our lives. And when we are closed, we cannot receive. In India, the analogy that's used all the time for this is the tap is on, in India, people bathe from buckets. So instead of a shower head that's dropping water on you that you stand underneath, typically they have a faucet, and a bucket gets filled under the faucet. Many of you have been in India when it's your first time in India, will wonder, why is there a faucet kind of halfway down the wall underneath a shower head? And it's because people fill up a bucket and then bathe from the bucket. And the analogy that's used in India that I've heard so many different spiritual leaders use is the tap is on, but your bucket's upside down. Grace is there. The divine is there. It's all there. But our buckets are upside down. So whatever analogy or metaphor, imagery works best for you, use that. But recognize that as we have turned this really amazing, brilliant, sympathetic nervous system of our body to be afraid of lions and tigers and wild elephants and an attacking tribe. And it was brilliant for that. That same system that is there to save our lives, to kick in when you are about to fall off a cliff and it somehow grabs the body in a way and you manage to save yourself. That same brilliant system is actually killing us now. It's killing us because it kicks in every time someone takes our parking spot or is mean to us or rude to us or cuts in front of us in line. I've been amazed. This is a very short trip in America, but I was here for a bit longer over the summer. But between my trips over the summer and now, I've been amazed at the trigger readiness of people here. And the anger. I was in an airport recently and I've got, that clear thing, right? Where you sign up and they check your eyes and then they take you in. And so it just saves time waiting in line in airports. So I had gone through that and the woman had taken me then to where you put your things on the conveyor belt in the security TSA line. And there was a woman at the very back of the conveyor belt. The conveyor belt was empty. One woman at the back folding up a stroller of her, baby stroller. And the clear lady brought me to the front of the conveyor belt, which was empty, and had me put my bag there. And a gentleman who was waiting in line behind the lady with the stroller starts shouting at me. Who do you think you are? How dare you? Cut in line. And oh my God, I'm so sorry. I hadn't walked there. This lady had brought me up here. Second of all, the whole thing is empty. She's folding a stroller. Third of all, the lady folding the stroller had actually said to me, please, And I said to him, I'm so sorry. I said, I'm not in a rush. If you'd like me to wait, I'm happy to go. And the woman with the stroller and the clear lady and everybody's like, no, please, for God's sakes, there's a line, just go, just please, do what I've told you to do and go and ignore this man. But I was so impacted by it Because I thought, wow, like how trigger ready are we? Tiny little thing, nothing, 30-second difference when you get through whatever it may be, but it's new. And the number of these sorts of interactions that I've seen in traveling particularly, just over the last 6 months, have become so much more. We are afraid. And again, as I said, we've been bred to be afraid. It works very well commercially because then we're much more likely to click here and buy now whatever is being sold if we're convinced that it's going to somehow make us safer, wholer, better, happier. But it's blocking us. It's closing our heart, where we should be smiling at each other in line. We're yelling at each other. Where we should be walking together on this journey. We're fighting each other along the way. So, open your hearts, go within, and remember that grace not only is in you, but it is you. It is you. And if you're not feeling it or finding it, don't worry, it's just the nature of the mind. Work with it. And most importantly, let go of fear. Let go of the contraction so you can open and expand and receive and connect. Because it's all there. It's never been anywhere other than here. But we've just stopped seeing it. I'm so grateful to have this time with you this evening. I'm happy to open it up for questions if there's anyone who has a question. Yes. I don't know if we have a cordless mic by any chance. Oh, we do. Lovely. But you're right in front, so you can go in advance, and then by the time someone in back has a question, they'll have the cordless mic. Yes, I can hear you.
I was wondering if have you ever asked your guru how far along in the spiritual path you are, or how many lives you have left?
So this question of, she said, have you ever asked your guru how far along you are on the spiritual path, or how many lives you have left? So there are two pieces, and I'll give them to you in both ways. In terms of being far along, when you look at, I haven't ever asked him like this, but if you look at signposts on our spiritual path, if you ever want to know how far along you are, it's actually really quite simple. How frequently do you find yourself saying or doing things that later on you say, oh my God, that wasn't me. That wasn't what I meant. Meaning, how frequently are you not there? Because obviously it was you. When we say, oh, that wasn't me. Well, of course it was you. It was just unconscious you. It was unskillful you. It was not present you, not open you, not compassionate you. But it wasn't like you were possessed somehow. Your next door neighbor took over your body. So you can always check in. How frequently do you lose yourself? How frequently do you forget? The more you forget, the more of a beautiful journey you still have to go. The less you forget, the closer you are. But in terms of lifetimes, it's interesting because in the Indian tradition, we speak about reincarnation, birth and redeath. And it's said that ultimately that highest goal is moksha, liberation, freedom from this samsara, this wheel of samsara, this cycle of birth and death. So moksha, though, is not actually from the body. We live on the banks of Mother Ganga, which is where people come to immerse ashes of loved ones who have passed away, because it's said that when the waters of Mother Ganga touch the ashes, that soul will attain moksha, liberation, not have to be reincarnated again. But here's the real piece. The physical body isn't the problem. Nobody ever was not enlightened because they have an elbow, right? It's never been the case of, I would be enlightened if it just weren't for this knee, or this fingernail, or this ear. It's not the body. And so therefore, since it's not the body that's the problem, the idea that by becoming free from the body, somehow I will attain moksha, that when I die, I will attain moksha, that isn't true. With the soul, as the soul travels from body to body, it travels with something we call the sukshma sharir, which is the subtle body, which is spoken about as man, buddhi, ahankar, which is basically the mind, the intellect, and the ego. We also speak about it sometimes as the different koshas, the different layers, the vital body, the mental body, the intellectual body, different ways of describing the same phenomenon. That subtle body travels with the soul, meaning if your mind, if your intellect, if your ego is not free now, do not think that by getting a new set of kidneys or elbows or knees that somehow you are going to become free of that, because guess what? It goes with you. It is what you could consider your carry-on luggage. It's with you all the time. You attain moksha when that subtle body is done, is purified. But that's the work of the mind, not the changing of bodies. And then here's the other really beautiful piece. When that mind becomes purified, then the body's a gift. Then who wants to be free of the body? Then the body is this incredibly exquisite gift we've been given to watch a sunrise, to climb a mountain, to hold a baby, to hold each other, to listen to beautiful music, to witness art. The body is a gift when we are free in the mind. So my guru, Puja Swamiji, Puja Swami Chidananda Saraswati Ji, for those of you who don't know him, has said for as long as I've known him, I'm coming back. Why not? I mean, if you're not suffering because of these games of the mind, if you are free of lust and anger and greed and illusion and jealousy, why not? Why not climb another mountain and drink from another spring and hug another person and sing more beautiful music? Why not? Why not watch another sunrise? It's a gift. And so the rest of us around him are all like, well, if he's coming back, we're coming back. I want as many hours with him as I can get. And I mean, I know this life isn't going to be enough time. So if he's coming back, we're all coming back. In fact, one of my very favorite stories of this is a devotee of his who's been devotee for 45 years, originally from Pittsburgh, where Puja Swamiji built the Hindu Jain temple back in the early 80s. And he's a wonderful man, now in his 80s, and a wonderful, beautiful, beautiful man. And his wife told me this story, actually, because they were talking to some friends a few years ago, and the friends were saying to this gentleman, you know, they were talking about moksha, they're all of advancing age, and he said, oh, well, anyway, you are definitely getting moksha. Like, you are such a pious and pure and wonderful man. You are definitely not going to have to come back. And he said, oh, I'm coming back. In addition to being a doctor, he's a photographer. And he's a beautiful photographer. And all of the earliest gorgeous pictures that we have of Swamiji, all of the pictures of the temple and everything, were his. They never had professional photographers in those days. They had this doctor who happened to be a beautiful photographer. So when his friend said to him, what do you mean you're coming back? He said, well, my guru's coming back, and hopefully he's going to need somebody to take his picture. So I want to come back and be the guy who's taking his picture again. So this is all to say that I'm not worried at all about how many I have left. I'm much more worried about how much of my time here in this particular body is wasted in the games of the mind. Like, that's my focus of how can I be free in every moment? Because in those moments when you're free, it is exquisite to be here. You wouldn't want to be anywhere other than here. The level of gratitude for this life, the level of connection with the creation, the ability to see God in the trees and the flowers and each other and the stars and the sunset and all of it is something you wouldn't trade for anything in the world. So if we can just work on easing the suffering in our minds that makes us want to be done now, that voice inside of us that's like, I'm done. Well, that's not about the body, that's about the mind. But remember, it goes with you. So you got to work with it sometime. You might as well work with it now. And then you get to start enjoying the body sooner rather than later. Great question. Any other questions? Yes.
I have.
Thank you, DJ.
Hi, thank you so much for being here. Such a treat. You talked about how we're bred to fear. We're also bred other belief systems, like we're unlovable, we're not good enough. How do you, what kind of modalities do you recommend to unravel those belief systems?
Wonderful. So one of the things you always have to remember is just because you think it doesn't mean it's true. A lot of us have this belief that somehow if it exists in here, it is true. If I think it, it's true. And the awareness that, oh my God, I might think this, but it isn't true, is incredible. Those of you who know my history know that when I was an adolescent and in my early 20s, I struggled very, very severely with bulimia. And one of the hallmarks of an eating disorder is that you look in a mirror and see something completely different than what is there. I was on the anorexia side of bulimia. So it was sort of both. And I would look in a mirror and be completely convinced that I was huge. I mean, I was grossly huge. It was not a problem of my body. I was super thin, like unhealthfully so. But the mind, my eyes were okay. I didn't need glasses. I could read. The mirror was okay. But the mind processing center was off. And I'm so grateful that I went through that for so many reasons. But one of the key reasons is exactly this, because I've never believed anything that I thought ever again. Because as you move through recovery and you start to realize that which I see in the mirror or how it is being perceived isn't true, you start to realize, oh my God, just because I think it doesn't mean it's true. Just because I think this food is bad, or I am bad for eating it, or all of these things that those of us who suffer in those ways believe. The gift of that is those beliefs are so insanely ludicrous and fatally so. I mean, it's rare that a belief actually can kill you. But you start to realize, oh my God, this belief actually can kill me. And so even if when I look in the mirror, I still, in my mind, not truthfully today, thankfully, but even if, as you go through recovery, what you get to a point is you're saying, okay, even if when I look in the mirror, I still see someone who looks fat, I have to recognize that that isn't true. And I'm so grateful for it, because I've never taken my mind seriously since then. I've always had this awareness of the lies that my mind tells me. Not on purpose, not because my mind is against me, but because it was fed that, it was bred that. We are given in a variety of different ways, whether it's from our family of origin and the household of origin, whether it's from our educational system, whether it's from our culture these days, whether it's from social media, wherever it's coming from, we're given beliefs and we internalize them. The best way I have found to work with them is really just simply to look at them. And the first question is simply, why do I believe that? Where did that come from? Just look at it. You don't have to start by saying, I don't think you're true. Where did you come from? Who told you that? Oh, you only are lovable if you do the right things? This is a key thing we see in parenting all the time. So many of us, I would venture to say almost 100% of us, have some element of the following belief. My worthiness as a human being, my lovability as a human being, is based upon what I do. Almost all of us hold that belief. I am so sorry I couldn't do this for you. You must hate me. What do you mean you don't love me? I just did all of that stuff for you. I do, therefore, I am worthy of love. It's just one belief. But almost all of us get it, and we get it because when we are children, our parents, who mean very well and are just trying to teach us some rules and discipline, they do the following. When our room is clean, They say, oh, come here, you're mama's good boy or mama's good girl. Our room is a mess. We're told you're a bad boy, a bad girl. Or we come home with a straight A report card. We get hugs, we get kisses, we get praise, we get appreciation. We come home with a failing grade. Even if we don't get insulted or hit, we're certainly not getting celebrated and honored and embraced. Now, and these are good parents. This is the good end of the spectrum. We don't realize it. We're unconscious as we do it. But the message that we all get as kids is, regardless of what the thing may be in our house, whether it's cleanliness or chores or sports or academics or what we look like or whatever it may be, what we're taught is your worthiness of love is based on what you do. Your value as a human being is based on what you do. So that's, again, just one example, but whatever the belief that we hold is, it's really important to ask ourselves, where did I get that? Because if you can go back and pinpoint it, then you realize, oh yeah, my parents weren't trying to ruin my life. They just wanted me to clean my room, for God's sakes. They just wanted me to study harder. They were really doing the very best they could. They didn't mean to give me a belief that turned me into a workaholic or a people pleaser. That wasn't their intention. They just wanted a clean room. And we start to then be able to let things go when we see where it came from. And so I would always start with that, just why do I even think this is true? Where did it come from? Who told me this? And then you start to really investigate it. Is it true? Byron Katie does a beautiful piece on this. Just some questions to ask yourself. Is it true? Am I sure it's true? How do I know it's true? And then the kicker, which I love because I love depth work, is who would I be if it weren't true? If I didn't believe this, who would I be? What would have to be different about my life if I didn't believe this about myself or about the world? And for a lot of us, that becomes the key. We are so attached, not just to the belief per se, but to the life that we have built around the belief. The habits, the tendencies, the relationships, the careers, the entire way we have structured our life around a belief. Well, we have to keep believing it's true. Because if not, then oh my God, what does that mean about all the choices I've made in my life? And so this path of inquiry, what we call Jnana Yoga, that path of wisdom yoga, it's all about inquiry. And you just go in, go in, go in. Who would I be if this weren't true? Try it on for size. Try on a different belief. If I believed the opposite, what does that feel like? What would it be like? And just play with it. Because you're absolutely right. We've been given beliefs. And in many cases, in almost all of the cases, the beliefs we've been given have nothing to do with our highest benefit. The beliefs we've been given have things to do with proper socialization in society. It's rude to have your elbows on the table. Who says? Right? I mean, in what book is it written? that elbows in the lap are better than elbows on the table. But we were all taught it. If you see someone, their elbows all over the table, you think, oh my God, they've got really bad table manners. Didn't they learn? Don't eat with your hands. Bad table manners. Well, in India, everybody eats with their hands. Different culture, different set of beliefs. If you can allow your beliefs to just be that fluid, in that way, then you start to find a little bit more movement and spaciousness and dance in life when we are constricted and contracted and frozen. There's no spaciousness, there's no movement, there's no dance, there's no flow. Flow only flows where there is freedom to flow. If you dam up a river, it doesn't matter how much power in the river, it cannot flow. In so many ways, we are damming up that flow of love, of life, of creativity, of connection, of realization, of truth, of ecstasy, with all of these beliefs, with all of these thoughts, with all of these fears. And so just don't tell yourself it's bad, because that's just a different belief. But just start to poke at it, gently, lovingly, like the way that you would poke at someone you loved. Just sort of tickle it. Like what would happen if you weren't quite so rigid? What would it be like? And you'll see, you'll start to find a lot of movement. Wonderful. Yes. Yeah, we'll take just these last two. Did you have your hand up in the back too? Okay, so we'll take these last three together. Yes.
Thank you for your wisdom, Sadhviji. We see so much human suffering out on the streets.
Yeah.
Why? How? And
so much suffering on the streets?
On the streets, out on the streets. I mean, with those who are unhoused. And I often, when I come across them, it's jarring in contrast with these teachings. So how do we, as conduits of these messages, how can we alleviate their suffering?
And
with
the suffering you're referring to, you're talking about like the homeless people.
Yeah, physically out on the streets.
We help them.
How can we also help bring this grace to them, like also be conduits? It is something that I think we would want to help with and help remind them that this grace is available to them, but how? And how do we assist?
My particular worldview let me back up. So at the ashram at PARMARTH NIKETAN, where I live, we are all in what we call seva, service. And people who are used to walking into really big organizations of any type are used to roles and titles. Oh, who are you? What do you do? Who are you? What's your role? What's your title? And we've been really very conscious to avoid that. Because roles and titles become things that your ego just wraps themselves around. And for me, as I think about it, and one of the ways that I've explained it to people, when they say, so what exactly, not so much anymore they ask, but in the beginning they used to ask, as I would say, my aim, my role is to simply serve in whatever way I can. Now, the way that that service is flowing through mostly is in speaking, in teaching, in satsang, or in, some kind of spiritual ministry, spoken, written, teaching meditations, all of those pieces. But if someone walked into my office one day, if my door was open and they walked in because for whatever reason there was nobody sitting in the reception office and they were just looking for another door and they happened to walk in, and they walked in because they were at the ashram because they heard that we were running a free medical camp. And they had traveled for the last 3 days. This is an imaginary situation, but just bear with me for a moment. They had traveled for 3 days on bullock cart, in rickshaw, on foot, to bring their mother to our free medical camp to get her free medical care. And this guy shows up in my office wanting to know how to register his mother for a medical camp. For me to then say, well, I am the one who gives spiritual wisdom, so why don't you sit down on the couch right here and I'm going to give you some spiritual wisdom. That would be absurd, bordering on criminal. What the guy needs is a hot meal. He needs a shower. He needs a roof over his head. He needs to be assured that, yes, we can register his mother for the medical camp and treat her in the medical camp. And only after all of that is done would it make sense for me to say to him, hey, by the way, we also have this meditation. We also have this satsang. You may want to come. And when we have people who are hungry and homeless, yes, on some level, teaching them meditation or spiritual teachings, it's always a nice thing to do. And yet it feels to me on the inside like it borders on criminal. Not because they couldn't benefit from it, but because we then walk away feeling like I have done something. And what we need to do is something different, which is to feed them and to house them. And to work with the local municipality, with the Congress people. There's so much going on in so many parts in the world over which we don't have any control. No matter how strongly we may feel about it, we don't actually have any control. This is something we do. This is local enough that we actually do. And if we came together and we worked together, it is not rocket science. There must be ways. We are in a wealthy nation. We are in a wealthy city. We are in a wealthy counties. The percentage of homeless people here, the density of homeless people here is one of the highest in the world. It's criminal. And so, on the one hand, yes, I would say sharing spiritual teachings is beautiful as long as you're doing it over a hot meal. Or as long as you're doing it while you have, walked them to get them in line to pick up their first, paycheck, or whatever it may be that you are also doing along with it. Because we really are called to do something very pragmatic and very practical for them. Thank you. Yes.
Hi, I have a question about moving heavy emotions in the body. I lost my dad last year, and sometimes I don't know how to move the energy that's like still stuck in my body, even though I do a lot of things like dancing and like all the tools that I know. So what are some of the things that you would suggest?
Well, remember that when we've got stuckness, we adapt to the stuckness. If you've got a bad ankle, you're going to limp. If the ankle is bad for long enough, that limp is going to end up creating another problem in the body because you are out of balance. Moving more is not going to help the ankle. It's actually going to create more stuckness in different parts because I am moving in a way around where I am stuck. And so the dilemma, the challenge that we face is when we've got these places of stuckness, well, they've been there for a long time. We're living our lives around those places of stuckness. Simply a good run or a good game of tennis or something that uses all of my body, I'm going to learn how to use my body around that stuckness. It's not going to free it. You've got to work more consciously with it. And what I would suggest is a combination of really clear awareness with the breath. So as you sit and as you breathe, bringing the awareness to the breath, in meditation, but a meditation on the breath and a meditation on the way that the breath flows through the body. And when you come to those places of stuckness, just hold the awareness. Don't wish it away. Just hold the awareness on that spot. And what you'll notice is very, very gently, but actually quite quickly, the breath will start to create a loosening in that area. And I would do that as a practice. Or I would work with a body worker who's consciously working with energy, whether it's through massage, whether it's in some other way, that you're using your power of awareness and your breath, either on their own or with someone else's hands, to very consciously move that energy. Not because it's wrong, not because it's bad, not because we wish it away, but just in loving holding of it and just allowing it to change. It's like if you've ever had a toddler throwing a temper tantrum and you take that toddler into an embrace. Well, in the beginning, the toddler kicks and screams and flails. But if you don't let go, and you don't say shut up, you don't say stop it, you don't say anything at all, you simply hold the child in love. I gotcha. We're here. Eventually, the temper tantrum stops. The breathing returns to normal. And the child lets go. But you have to just hold it. If there is an agenda on your part that you will be quiet now and stop this, the temper tantrum will continue. You just hold it in love and presence. And in that presence, if you hold your own energy in that same way, it'll open. You may also want to go in and in a meditation, just look at it. What is it there for? What is it trying to teach you? What is it holding on to? Ask it. And then listen. Beautiful. Yeah, last, Rebecca.
We love you so much, Sadhvi. Thank you so much for being here. My grandma, Shirley, who's 101, is on her deathbed now. And my family members, especially my mother, her daughter, are struggling with the grief of watching her leave her body. It's coming soon. Of course, no one knows when. I am finding it very painful, but because I have God and a spiritual path, I'm working with it. My mother and my other family members do not have God, and they're suffering so much. Is there anything I can do?
Yeah, death is one of those times where, every day is one of those times, but especially around death, is one of those times that you just become so grateful for a spiritual path. So grateful for a connection on a level that isn't just physical body. So grateful for an awareness of soul and spirit and consciousness and that which is not the body. I believe very deeply that my grandmother actually waited for me to die, not because she loved me best or not because she was, anything like that, but actually because I was the only one in the family who could release her from the terror that she had around death and this death grip that she had on life. And she had been in a coma by the time we came in, and I stayed the night with her in the hospital and lay in bed with her. And it was in my early days in India, so I didn't even know very many mantras or prayers or anything, but I chanted the ones that I did know. And I just kept saying, "It's okay, Grandma. Like, where you're going is beautiful." She had been through so much. It was this after this, after this, after that. And it's so beautiful where you're going. Like, don't worry. Don't worry. You're going to just a beautiful place. And she had always been sort of affection averse. I've always been a really affectionate person, physically affectionate, and she was always kind of, And as a kid, I always used to kind of jump on her from behind and force her to hug me, and she would always say, "Enough, enough, enough." And as I lay in her bed, she was in a coma and her head was off to this side. And I was lying on this side of her. And in the middle of me lying there and talking to her, she goes like this. And she just puckers up her lips. And I give her a kiss on her lips, and she turns her head back and never made another movement again. And died the next morning. Or the next afternoon, but the next day, only a few hours later. And I deeply, deeply believe that it wasn't, "Oh, you're my favorite, I needed you to come back from India and then I could die." But it was, I was the only one who wasn't so freaked out about her dying or so terrified of her dying that I actually could give her the freedom and the assurance to let go, which was what she needed to do. And so that's all to say, I don't know what you can do for your family members, because at this point, you're not going to be able to convince them of something different. But you certainly can do something for your grandmother. And the space that you hold for your grandmother, even without necessarily saying the words, like, I don't think if I weren't alone with my grandmother, that in front of the whole family, I would have necessarily started saying all of those things that would have been distressing for the rest of my family to hear. But you don't need to say it in words. Just your presence, just you holding the beauty, the perfection, the spaciousness, the infiniteness of the moment, the eternalness of the moment. The grandma's not actually going anywhere. There's a beautiful story of when Sri Ramakrishna, the great, great saint, left his body, and his wife, Sharda Devi, who was much, much, much younger than he was. I think she was only 5 when they had married her off to him. In Indian tradition, brides get bangles, these bracelets, and they stay on your whole life. And when you become a widow, the brides take off the bangles. But her bangles had gone on when she had the wrist of a 5-year-old girl. And so her hand and the bones had grown in such a way that she couldn't get her bangles off. And so she took a hammer and she was going to hammer the bangles. And suddenly she hears Sri Ramakrishna say, "Sharda, what are you doing?" He says, "I haven't gone anywhere. I've just moved from one room to another room." So I don't know if it's appropriate to share that story or not. I mean, your parents do know me, so maybe you could, I could get away with sharing a story like that through you. But just help them loosen the hold on this is nothing more than a tragedy. I mean, she's 101. Right? I mean, aside from the whole soul and spirit and reincarnation and infiniteness and eternalness of it, even if we've only got one life and this is all there is, she's 101. I mean, that's a celebration-worthy success, if I've ever heard of one. And so help them also just revel in that. Wonderful. So much love to you all, and such a joy as always to be together. And as always, a perennial invitation to Rishikesh. Come home, whether it's at our International Yoga Festival in March, whether it's any of the other 51 beautiful weeks a year, whether it's both. But come, whenever it works for you. You're all always welcome. And if you discover that you've got a question that you didn't ask, or you were shy, or you forgot, or just send it in by email, post it on any of the social media pages, whatever it may be. Our team will get it. And I do satsang each evening when I'm in Rishikesh, and we always begin by taking at least one question that's come in from the global family. So if you do have a question, feel free to send it in, and you'll be with us there, if not physically, at least in spirit, and we'll take the question, and then our team will hopefully be able to let you know, when it was taken, so you can watch that. And so much love to you all. So much love. We have tangerines, right? Yummy, sweet, juicy prasad, care of Tommy and Kia.
Kia took these off our tree at our house, and you wouldn't even know that we lost a single one. I mean, it's so late. We keep giving them away, but they just keep coming. So.
All of the good things in life. Just like that. The more you give away, the more you get. You want the first tangerine? But you know, there's a cost for it. Toll for it. So you want a tangerine? And then you want to give tangerines to everybody? Would you like to do that? Don't leave before you get a tangerine from Diana. She's going to give out tangerines to everybody. Okay? Okay, so let's give out tangerines to everybody.
Vandana seviti kahangnangde angtana karane denangde angtana vekan sunangde angtana jape kyaman mangde angtana jape kita akare angtana jape paide vaide angtakaran kite bilalai take angtana paide jaye eho angtana jana kohe bahut kahe Vandana seviti kahangnangde angtana karane denangde angtana vekan sunangde angtana jape kyaman mangde angtana jape kita akare angtana jape paide vaide angtakaran kite bilalai take angtana paide jaye eho angtana jana kohe bahut kahe Vandana seviti kahangnangde angtana karane denangde angtana vekan sunangde angtana jape kyaman mangde angtana jape kita akare angtana jape paide vaide angtakaran kite bilalai take angtana paide jaye eho angtana jana kohe bahut kahe Vandana seviti kahangnangde angtana karane denangde angtana vekan sunangde angtana jape kyaman mangde angtana jape kita akare angtana jape paide vaide angtakaran kite bilalai take angtana paide jaye eho angtana jana kohe bahut kahe bahut सूचे को जाने सोए जय बड़ा आप जाने आप आप नानक नदीरी कर मीरात अंत न सिवती कहना अंत न करने देना अंत न वेकन सुनन अंत न जापे क्या मन मंगते अंत न जापे कित अकाय अंत न जापे पार वार अंत कारण किते बिललाए ताके अंत न पाए जाए एहु अंत न जाने कोई बहुत कहे बहुत होए बड़ा साहे पूछता ऊंचे ऊपर ऊंचना ए बड़ा ऊंचा होवे कोई जिस ऊंचे को जाने सोए जय बड़ा आप जाने आप आप नानक नदीरी कर मीरात अंत न सिवती कहना अंत न सिवती कहना अंत न करने देना अंत न वेकन सुनन अंत न जापे क्या मन मंगते अंत न जापे कित अकाय